Hey everybody, welcome to the Vault Reviews, and we're gonna keep going with these album reviews for you. You can check us out at thevaultreviews.com. Send us an email, thevaultmusic1@gmail.com, and check us out on social media, on Twitter at thevaultmusic1, and Facebook, just search The Vault. And of course YouTube, or she might be there already. But anyway, we got a really awesome album to review today. And Brent, I know you just finished listening to this, so we're going to review the Flower Travellin band's Satori album from 1971. And this album, if you guys haven't heard it, it's a total trip. Brent, do you have a brain left at all?
Dude, what? I'm not kidding. This album was something else, man. I honestly, from the very beginning all the way through the very end, I had no idea what was going on.
All right, so let's just jump into it. I'm pretty familiar with this, and I know it's fresh on your mind, so I'll just let you give your thoughts first.
Honestly, whenever I first heard it, the first opening sound, I actually wrote on my notes, WTF.
Wow.
It was so weird. And this album, like, seriously grew on me. At the beginning, I honestly had no idea what to think about it. It's like, a Japanese band from the 70s.
Right, yeah. If anybody's unfamiliar with the band itself before we get into the album, this is probably their most well-known album. It is a Japanese band. It's kind of, it's kind of classic hard rock, a little bit of prog, and a little bit of acid rock and psychedelic all mixed in.
Yeah, it's, like I said, the first part, the part one, because, the whole thing's just divided into parts. There's not even song names. So that should tell you something. But no, the first one, honestly, I didn't really enjoy it a whole lot, but they had such a unique sound that it's like, okay, I have to keep listening to this. I can't, stop. And by the time I got to part two, though, that guitar, unreal. The guitar work on this entire album is absolutely amazing.
And I'll just start with talking about the music. The first song, I kind of thought, okay, is this a throwback to maybe the new wave of British heavy metal sound, or a little bit of doom, a little bit of that stuff. But then as the album progresses, even like through the first song even, it starts totally changing into something I had never heard before. A lot of the psychedelic and progressive and there's even some jazzy kind of stuff in there starts flowing in. And the guitar tone alone is maybe trippy enough to make you forget where you are. And the album just it's not it's got this driving force to it, but it's not extremely heavy. It's just you kind of get lost. It's like you're on this open highway, just going and going and going. And there's all these little intricate things start coming in here and there, and then kind of disappearing, and then something else comes in. But, the music, I think, is heavy for a totally separate reason. Sure, it doesn't have any heavy death metal distortion, and it doesn't have screaming, but this album is definitely a trip. So what do you think? Anything else to add musically?
Honestly, I was impressed. Like I said, the first part, I didn't think a whole lot of it until you're a couple minutes into it, and then like you said, it starts building this weird kind of intricate thing going on. I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah, and then by the time you start really delving into it, because there's no other way around it. You listen to this and you're paying any attention at all, your mind goes just with it and elsewhere. I actually really got into it for the entire, part two through part four. I don't even know that I was sitting here listening to it. I just think I was. Either way, I loved it.
Yeah, that happens. You forget where you are listening to this stuff, and it's just like it's like puts you in this weird trance, kind of thing.
Yeah, and musically, it kind of ended up to me seeming like there were parts of each little different part, or I guess sections of each little part, that was almost like who can out jam who.
Right. Yeah, and I loved that.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. At one point, I think it was part four. It was like a guitar and a harmonica going at each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, this is absolutely amazing. And I was like, wow. First I heard the harmonica. I'm like, really? There's a harmonica now? Because, like I said, once you get to part four, there's so much going on with this that by the time you get to the harmonica part, it's like, holy cow, this is amazing.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to bring up is just the general musicianship. Just they can all jam, like you said. They've got the harmonica, like you said, and there's some awesome solos. It just goes so well together. They're such great musicians.
Yeah, and some of the like sounds they get out of some of the instruments
Oh
is
yeah.
just bizarre.
Yep.
And like number on part two, like the opening's awesome on part two. The whole opening's awesome. And whatever instrument that is throughout, I don't know if it's a guitar or some sort of weird instrument I'm not familiar with. Either way, it's awesome. And then like later on in that part, you've got the drums that just do this amazing rhythm and everything. I was like, oh wow, this is just blowing my mind.
Yeah, one thing I'll touch on too is you keep referring to, part two, part four, part one.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about this. It's straightforward. There's 5 songs, I believe, and it's part one, part two, part three, part four, part five. There's no song titles you don't have to remember. You just need to remember which part you like. I absolutely love that. And with this kind of music, I think you kind of have to try and remember what part you're at, because if you're trying to remember what the song, where you're at, and the title, it'd be hard. I couldn't do it.
Oh no. Like we were keep talking about, there's just so much going on. It's even part three. There's almost like a Middle Eastern kind of like feel to it.
Yep.
And you don't expect a Japanese band from the 70s to pull out Middle Eastern type sounds. But here they are, and they're doing it well. I mean, that musicianship, that guitar work, I could listen to that guitar all day. Just listen to that guy playing the guitar all day. Easy.
So let's talk a little bit about the vocals. We haven't touched on that yet. I could see this being the aspect of this album that people don't like.
Yep.
And I did not like it at first. Like part one, when he starts wailing I was like, what is this? And then the more I listened to it, the more, like you said, it started growing on me. And now I absolutely love the vocal style. What did you think of the vocals?
The vocals on part one I didn't really care for, like you said. They were good in, is it two? One of them was instrumental completely, and I don't remember which one. That one was just so amazing. But anyway, the vocals, when he does the weird little wail that he does throughout part one and throughout part five, it borderlines on too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the album as a whole is just a whole lot better whenever they just let the instruments do the talking. I will say this, the version I listened to on YouTube actually had a hidden song or secret song or whatever called Map. That one, the vocals are absolutely perfect. I love them. And I mean, I don't know if you've heard that one, if it's on your copy or not.
No, I have an actual album, so I'm not sure of it.
It's almost like a weird Japanese, like almost like a mortuary type sound.
Interesting.
Like,
that doesn't surprise me with these guys.
Yeah, it's like a weird sound and stuff, but the vocals are just spot on with that one. And they're good through the middle part of the album. The vocals don't really bother me a whole lot, but I just think the album's a whole lot stronger whenever the musicians get to just sit there and jam at each other.
So let's talk a little bit more about the layout of the album. Only 5 tracks, 5 parts, and clocks in, I think, right around 40 minutes maybe. Yeah. What did you think of just the song layout? Because this is my only negative, is I'm not a fan of the long songs, and even though they do these songs really well, and there's a lot of cool parts, and I can hit play and I can just let it roll, but at times I'm kind of wishing we had maybe 3 or 4 more songs of more original stuff that they're putting out. What did you think?
Yeah, there's parts of it that kind of become a little bit repetitious.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that's fine because the repetition is just kind of a backdrop for the weird kind of little jam sessions that they do throughout the album.
Right.
And then it goes back to that part, and then a different instrument comes in, and that it kind of wears on you a little bit. Like if I was to listen to this album all the time, I could see where the kind of the repetitious parts would really get to me. But overall, I didn't think it was that bad. And I don't mind a good long song as long as it kind of keeps up. You know what I'm saying? As long as the music's still just rocking. And for the most part, this is. But I understand exactly what you're saying. If you could get 2 or 3 more songs, like one of them I think is like 11 minutes long or something.
Yeah, there's a 10-minute, 11-minute, and then 2 that are right around 7 minutes.
Yeah, if you could, cut those in like half and get something completely new, because each part's different. I mean, there's not any part that's really the same, but when it stretches out, it does kind of get a little repetitious. And if you could cut them in half and get something completely different, I could see where that would just make this almost a masterpiece, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, and that's my only complaint. And enough of the talk. Let's get into the reviews. What were your final thoughts, and what do you give this as a horrible rating, 1 star, or awesome rating, 5 stars?
I was shocked that it was a Japanese band. I really was. That was one thing that really kind of got me. I really shouldn't go into the reviews, but it did, because there's nothing that made me think Japanese on this.
Let me stop you right there. I just want to point out that there are so many awesome Japanese bands. The best thing you could do is go on YouTube. I'm a fan of a ton of these bands, but all different kinds of genres. There's a lot of good Japanese music out there. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. But the guitar work was amazing. Like I said, the vocals to me didn't keep up throughout the entire album, so that was a big complaint for me. And I just think it was better whenever they were just allowed to just kind of jam back and forth. I'm going to give it a good solid 4, and mainly just because the vocals, and it does get a little bit repetitious within each part.
For me, the only thing I can knock on it is the length of the songs, like we already talked about.
Yep.
I wish we had just a little bit more music and on a little shorter level. That might be just something on my part, but it does have enough variety in the sound to keep me listening to them, even though they're long. And like you said, the kind of driving force that just keeps it going while they're jamming. I didn't dislike the vocals as much as you. It does take a little bit to get used to them. I will admit that, but right. This falls just short of being 5 stars for me. I'm giving it 4 3/4. So nice. That averages out to 4.5. I think that's spectacular.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and it's a good, solid album. It really is. I was shocked because whenever I say ignore. Once you actually get into it, you understand how it begins, if that makes any sense.
Right, yeah.
But you kind of almost have to get past that the first time and get through the whole album before you can actually appreciate some of the early stuff. Because some of those weird tones, like there's like the first 5 seconds, nothing but like a weird tone.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. It took me probably 4 or 5 listens for me to really grasp this thing, and then I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I could honestly see from part 2 through Map, which is the hidden track if you see it on YouTube anyway, but at least 2 through 4, absolutely, I could play this a lot and love every minute of it.
All right, so sounds like this is a must-listen for everybody, so definitely check this album out, and don't forget to check us out at thevaultreviews.com, thevaultmusic1@gmail.com. Send us something you want us to review. We'll review anything, and we'll be happy to do it because we love listening to music. So check us out on Twitter at thevaultmusic1. Search us on Facebook. It's just The Vault. And then, of course, we're on YouTube and Podomatic. And with that, we're going to sign off until the next review we do. Brent, any last words?
I'm good, man.
All right. See you guys later.
Peace.